스테이지 인 코리아 발표 세션 진행하도록 하겠습니다. 저희 첫 번째 발표자 케이토형님이 이제 아직 도착을 안 하셔가지고 두 번째 발표자이신 정우식님께서 먼저 발표 주시겠습니다. 큰 박수로 맞이 부탁드리겠습니다.
오퍼레이팅은 어떻게 해요? 해주시는 거예요?
제가 할게요.
네, 안녕하세요. 카카오 엔터프라이즈에서 마케팅을 담당하고 있는 정우식입니다. 발표 진행하겠습니다. 오늘 발표 내용은 저희가 이제 웹3 플레이어, 다양한 플레이어들이 계신데요. 다양한 플레이어들과 함께 이게 무거운 것 같은데요?
네, 괜찮을까요? 네, 해보시겠어요?
카카오 클라우드가 함께하는 웹3 여정이라고 해서 웹3 다양한 플레이어들이 안정적인 비즈니스를 이어가시는데 도움이 되는 파트너가 되고자 저희 카카오 클라우드의 그런 마음을 담아서 발표 내용을 준비했습니다. 이어가겠습니다. 저는 지금 카카오 엔터프라이즈에서 마케팅을 담당하고 있고요. 기존에 제가 다양한 블록체인이라든지 웹3 씬에서 뭔가를 했다면 드릴 말씀이 있는데 대부분은 IT 베이스로 제가 마케팅을 했다 보니까 연사적에는 이 정도로 그치고 그 다음으로 이어가겠습니다. 카카오 클라우드 같은 경우에는 저희가 이제 기존 한 10년 동안 카카오에서는 다양한 B2C 서비스들이 있는데요. 저희 카카오톡, 그 다음에 카카오 게임즈, 웹툰, 그 다음에 페이나 뱅크, 엔터테인먼트 이르기까지 다양한 버티컬 도메인에서의 경험들이 있습니다. 성공 경험들이 있고 거기에 기술력을 기반으로 해서 저희가 카카오 엔터프라이즈라는 회사를 설립을 했고요. 거기서 지금 그런 기술을 토대로 대부분이 플랫폼 비즈니스를 하다 보니까 그 기술력을 가지고 카카오 클라우드를 서비스를 지금 준비해서 제공드리고 있습니다. 저희가 기존에 있는 국내 클라우드 같은 경우 대부분 접하는 사실은 시장 상황이긴 한데요. 카카오가 클라우드를 진행해요 라고 말씀을 드리면 대부분 이제 인지하시는 게 저희가 B2C 서비스를 워낙 많이 하다 보니까 온라인 스토리지 서비스라고 인지하시는 경우가 되게 많아요. 그래서 실제로도 저희가 문의가 들어올 때 저희 카카오에도 이제 톡서랍이라는 서비스가 있는데 톡서랍의 연장이라고 이해하시는 분들이 계신데 그렇지는 않고요. 저희가 이제 클라우드 컴퓨팅 서비스라고 해서 여긴 대부분 아시는 내용일 것 같긴 한데 인프라를 서비스하는 아이아스, 그다음에 그 위에 파스, 사스, 그리고 저희가 이제 제공 형태에 따라서 사실은 일반적으로 퍼블릭 클라우드를 제공드리고 있지만 기업의 특수한 니즈 내지는 업계 버티컬에 대한 니즈, 금융이라든지 공공이라든지 이런 경우는 저희가 프라이빗 클라우드 형태로도 제공드리고 있고 그 다음에 기존에 있는 온프레미스하고 클라우드, 그 다음에 클라우드와 클라우드 이런 구성 같은 경우 하이브리드로도 저희가 컨설팅 진행드리고 서비스를 진행하고 있습니다. 잠깐 저희 클라우드 컴퓨팅의 트렌드에 대해서 말씀드리고 싶은데 사실 트렌드라고 하기도 뭐한 게 대부분 너무 기사에서 많이 나와서 사실 오른쪽에 보시면 각 기사의 지금 메인 카피를 저희가 지금 나열해놨는데요. GPU가 너무 부족하다. 그리고 실제로 약간 자극적인 기사기는 내용이긴 하지만 마약바도 구하기 힘들다라는 내용이 나올 정도로 실제로 GPU 수요 대비 공급이 굉장히 부족한 상황이긴 합니다. 그런데 왼쪽에 보시면 이 가트나에서 내온 그 리포트 일부를 제가 인용한 건데요. 보면 GPU가 실제로 많은 수요가 있는데 대부분 빅테크, 큰 기업들 위주로 지금 확보가 되고 있는 실정이다라는 상황이라서 실제로 스타트업이라든지 아니면 국내 중견기업 이런 경우들도 GPU에 대한 필요의 니즈는 있지만 실제 구하기는 어려운 상황인 게 실정이긴 합니다. 저희가 이제 그러면 클라우드 컴퓨팅에 대한 니즈가 시장의 니즈가 계속 지속될 것인가 아니면 계속 되다가 사그라들 것인가 여러 가지의 사실 궁금증이 있는데 아무래도 관련 비즈니스 하다 보니까 저희가 그 관련된 리포트를 보니까 실제 2022년부터 지속적으로 성장하고 있고 그 다음에 24년 대비는 27년엔 2배 정도 가량 성장할 예정이다라고 되어 있는데 여기에 보니까 내용이 AI나 블록체인이나 데이터 그리고 AI를 기반으로 한 서비스라든지 여러 가지 비즈니스들이 늘어가기 때문에 그에 따른 컴퓨팅 인프라 수요가 증가할 것이기 때문에 덩달아서 클라우드의 사용량도 늘어갈 것이다 라고 추측하는 경우가 일반적입니다. 왼쪽은 사실은 정량적인 내용이고요. 오른쪽 같은 경우에는 기존의 온프레미스라든지 IDC 기반의 인프라 서비스들이 디지털 트랜스포메이션이라는 타이틀에서 전환의 한 툴로 클라우드가 이용됐다 그러면 지금 디지털 네이티브라고 해서 시작부터 클라우드를 고려하는 비즈니스들이 되게 많으시고요. 웹3도 아마 대부분 그러실 것 같아요. 근데 그런 측면에서 이제 필수 요소로 자리 잡고 있다라는 내용을 말씀드리고 싶어서 장표를 구성했습니다. 기존에 현재 이제 웹3하고 클라우드에 결합이 되어 있는데 하단에 있는 솔라나나 아니면 폴리곤이나 왁스 같은 다양한 웹3 서비스들이 클라우드 기반에서 서비스를 진행하고 있는 지금 기업들이고요. 이들이 이제 확장성이라든지 클라우드의 유연성, 그다음 신뢰성, 안전성 이 네 가지 주요 팩터를 가지고 여기에 기반해서 안정적인 클라우드 환경에서 비즈니스를 진행하는 게 적합하다라는 판단에서 웹3 서비스들을 개발하고 구현하고 서비스하고 있는데 좀 디테일하게 말씀드리면 사실 클라우드 같은 경우에는 웹3를 뒷받침하는 안정적인 인프라를 제공할 수 있다라는 측면이 되게 강하고요. 대부분 아시는 내용일 것 같긴 합니다. 노드가 안정적인 통신을 위한 높은 대역폭이 필요하고 또 블록체인 원장 및 메타데이터 수용을 위한 데이터 솔루션도 필요하고 블록체인에 특화된 보안, 호스팅 서비스, 마이크로 서비스 아키텍처 여러 가지들이 필요한데 여기에 더불어서 서비스 인프라의 확장성, 그다음 보안, 게다가 뭐 비용 효율성까지 여러 측면을 고려했을 때 클라우드가 아주 최적이고 이런 최적의 클라우드 환경에서 스마트 계약이나 블록체인, 암호화폐, NFT 등 다양한 웹3 서비스들이 제공되고 관련된 비즈니스 고민들이 풀어나가고 있는 실정입니다. 이어서 이제 저희 카카오 클라우드에 대한 말씀을 약간 드리고 싶은데요. 카카오 클라우드는 직전에 저희가 이제 다양한 저희는 이제 일반적으로 대기업은 계열사라고 부르는데 저희는 공동체라고 이제 불러요. 그래서 공동체 내에 다양한 서비스들이 있고 실제로 유니콘이라고 불리거나 아니면 유니콘을 넘어서는 기업들이 되게 많이 있어요. 그래서 그런 곳들에서 가져온 노하우를 가지고 도메인 날리지를 가지고 제조, 물류, 의료, 그다음 금융, 그다음 다양한 또 산업군, 커머셜 산업군에 대해서 서비스를 진행하고 있습니다. 그리고 프라이빗 클라우드나 퍼블릭 클라우드 같은 경우는 아까 일전에 말씀드렸는데 앞에서 말씀드렸는데 소버린 클라우드 같은 경우에는 이제 국내는 니즈는 아닌데요. 해외에서 소버린 클라우드 구축에 대해서 저희들에게 문의가 많이 오세요. 그러니까 아마 국가적인 정책적인 이슈 때문에 아마 문의가 오시는 것 같아요. 그리고 이런 서비스를 진행하면서 저희가 이제 파트너십을 구성하고 있는데 위에는 엔비디아나 AMD 같은 경우에는 카카오 클라우드의 상품에 대한 고도화를 위해서 간결합된 파트너십이 구성되어 있고요. 그 다음에 LGCNS나 SK텔레콤 같은 이런 파트너들이 저희 MSP, 밸류 애디드 파트너로서 진행되고 있습니다. 이 외에도 이제 세일즈포스라든지 아니면 다양한 또 마켓플레이스 상에서 서비스를 진행하는 사스형, 구독형 서비스들도 저희 파트너십을 맺고 있어서 클라우드 컴퓨팅에 대한 말씀드린 것처럼 IaaS, 파스, 그 다음에 사스 전 영역에 걸쳐서 파트너십을 맺어서 다양한 서비스들을 제공드리려고 노력하고 있습니다. 카카오 클라우드에서 이제 저희 강점을 말씀드리고 싶은데 사실은 여기서 보면 컴퓨팅, 네트워킹, 스토리지는 사실 대부분의 CSP 벤더들이 제공드리고 있는 기능들이긴 해요. 근데 저희들이 조금 더 강점을 둬서 말씀드리고 싶은 거는 모든 벤더들이 우수하지만 그 중에서 저희가 이제 자체 기술력에 의해서 기반해서 이제 원가를 다운시키면서 최신의 기술이 반영된 디바이스를 저비용으로 제공하고 있다라는 부분들을 좀 어필하고 싶었고요. 그 다음에 멀티클라우드를 저희가 이제 비용 효율, 운영 효율 측면에서 멀티클라우드를 많이 권장드리고 있는 입장인데요. 지금 비즈니스적으로. 그래서 멀티클라우드를 잘 지원할 수 있는 파트너이기 때문에 거기 높은 확장성, 그다음 멀티 에이지에 따른 안정성, 그다음 다양한 국내 보안 인증을 받고 있기 때문에 저희를 믿고 카카오 클라우드와 함께 웹3 비즈니스를 이어가실 수 있을 것 같다는 말씀 드리고 싶고 기존에도 저희가 블록체인이나 웹3 관련해서 CBDC 사업이라든지 STO, 그다음에 NFT 이런 사업들을 진행해왔기 때문에 전혀 저희들이 웹3에 대해서 모르지 않다 사실은 여기에 대한 도메인 날리지가 있다라는 부분을 어필하고 싶어서 이 내용을 구성했습니다. 저희가 이제 앞서 이런저런 말씀드렸는데 실제로 여기는 이제 AI 기반 웹3 서비스 개발 기업들의 고민이라고 되어 있는데요. 사실 대부분의 클라우드 컴퓨팅을 이용한 기업들의 고민이기도 합니다. 클라우드 운영 비용에 대한 부담이 있으시고요. 그 다음에 최근에 있는 AI의 트렌드 때문에 고성능 GPU 수급에 대한 어려움이 있으시고요. 그리고 AI 모델 개발, 운영 관리하는데 또 어려움이 있습니다. 왜냐하면 3번 같은 경우에는 기업의 규모가 작을수록 더 큰 어려움을 느끼는 상황이긴 합니다. 저희가 이제 제안드리는 여러 가지 각각의 항목에 대한 제안 방향성이 있는데 실제 운영 비용에 대해서는 저희가 멀티 클라우드 기반의 이제 베스트 오브 브리드 전략입니다라고 말씀드리지만 이거 뭐냐면 기존의 CSP 어떤 AWS라든지 GCP라든지 쓰고 있다고 해서 이걸 100% 임팩하라는 걸 거의 권장드리진 않고요. 실제로 비용 효율, 운영 효율 측면에서 잘 안배할 수 있도록 저희가 설계를 컨설팅 지원드린다라는 의미에서 제안드리는 거고, 그다음 저희가 지금 GPU 자원들이 많이 있기 때문에 사실은 이런 부분들을 외부에서 수혈하기 힘든, 사실 저희가 지금 경쟁 벤더에서도 저희 GPU를 이용하고 계시거든요. 그만큼 경쟁 벤더들 같은 경우에는 GPU 많이 부족한 현상이 있고, 저희는 다행히 이제 GPU 자원들을 많이 확보하고 있어서 이런 부분들은 강점일 수 있을 것 같다라는 부분도 어필하고 싶고, 저희 카카오가 기본적인 생태가 사실은 플랫폼 베이스고 B2C 베이스이기 때문에 기본적으로 사용자 친화적인 UI, UX가 기본적으로 깔려 있습니다. 그래서 외산 벤더와 다르게 카카오 클라우드의 콘솔이라든 여러 가지 환경들이 사용자에게 친화적으로 쉽게 이해할 수 있도록 구성되어 있다는 점, 이 부분도 사실은 대부분의 저희가 고객들에게 드리는 좋은 VOC이기도 합니다. 네. 저희가 이제 스타트업을 대상으로 이제 여러 가지 말씀드렸는데, 재정적인 지원이라든지 기술적인 지원, 이런 지원들을 가지고 있는 정규 프로그램들을 구성하고 있어요. 그래서 스타트업 지원 프로그램 중에 로켓 런처라고 있고요. 로켓 런처 같은 경우에는 저희가 최대 3,500만 원 정도의 비용 지원을 해드리고, 그 다음에 그 이외에는 또 추가적인 할인에 대한 베네핏도 드리고 있고요. 필요하다면 저희 카카오 클라우드에 대한 기술 지원, 그리고 어떤 비즈니스를 확장하고 싶다. 그런데 이 비즈니스 확장할 때 이 인프라 아키텍처 설계를 어떻게 했으면 좋겠냐라는 것에 대해서 저희 기존의 노하우를 가지고 컨설팅을 진행해 드리는 그런 컨설팅도 진행드리고 있고, 그 외에도 비정기적이긴 하지만 산업별로 특별 이벤트 프로모션도 진행하고 있어요. 이제 저기 시즈너블하게 뭐 게임, AI 이렇게 타겟팅을 해서 저희가 진행하고 있는데, 이런 저희 프로모션 장치들도 잘 활용하시면 사실은 비용 부담이 많은.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me, guys? Loud and clear? Okay, I think that it's finally time to start after waiting a lot and a lot of traffic that has been around in the city. So, welcome everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to our Deep in AI and RWA event, which we are going to be handling today. We're a little bit delayed. Beyond the hype with Muzzle, U2U Network, Manto Network, and Zove. Those are the primary sites of our event today, together with the Korea Blockchain Week 2024. My name is Adriana, and I will be your host today, so if you need anything, please let me know. And I think that it's enough from my side, so without further ado, I would like to just jump into our first panel. And the topic of our first panel will be tokenization, IP, and RWA. Here we are gonna be talking in this session and showing up how the tokenization is transforming the interaction between the physical assets and the intellectual property in the digital space. So I would like to invite our speakers on the stage, starting with Kosik Parv, the co-founder and CTO of Zove, Victor G, the co-founder of Manto Network, Ryan Kirkley, the president of Paxum, and Fadi Jabber, head of partnership at Mem Capital. Together with them, we will have, as a moderator, JC, please. Mike, next to you. I will have to give you the microphone like this, and you will have to give it to them, please. You can take that.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for the invitation. Thanks for hosting this great event here. Very happy to be here and be moderating this panel on the topic of IP and RWAs. I think we have some special guests here. I think we're still waiting for Kartik, but yeah, let's just get started away. I think tokenization is probably a very familiar concept for most of you guys. I think for me, at least, it means that we have, as humans for the first time in history, the possibility to combine value with information. And this also comes with financialization and also digitization. And I also believe that RWA is not a very new concept, to be honest. I think RWA, or tokenization, has been around and discussed for many years, at least since Ethereum launched their mainnet. But I feel like we have this re-emergence of this new narrative called RWA and tokenization. So I would like to maybe understand from the panelists why they think we have this resurgence and this new interest again in this old concept called tokenization and RWAs. And yeah, maybe you can combine this with also a quick introduction of yourselves as well, and also your organizations. So I will hand over to Victor first from Manta.
Hi everyone, I'm Victor, co-founder of Manta Network. We are the first and largest modular L2 in the currently many L2 like this competitive landscape. We start to do the scaling solutions since quite early days. We've been built for 4 years, and the recently we I think since early this year we launched our mainnet and token, and we have kind of lot of focus on DeFi and then RWA side, and you can see the last 2 months our recent announcement about collaboration with BlackRock. We can the asset deposit through Manta, the stable coin can actually transition to the USDM, which become a yield-bearing stable coin, and the T-bill is actually bought in the BlackRock securitized builder fund. So that's kind of the idea what we are working on. And besides of that, there's tons of RWA projects from emerging market as well, also from states, from China, and we actively working on that to get mass adoption, especially the institution money into crypto. And besides of that, I think we also quite interesting to build more culture stuff.
Yeah, I'm Ryan Kirkley, president at Paxum. We are a layer 1 for real-world assets, TradFi, banking, commodities, and everything like that. We primarily focus on onboarding institutions into the space. And so what we kind of take as kind of the answer to the RWA question and where we're kind of focused is crypto represents less than 1% of the global economy. It is incredibly small, and as we fight over liquidity on individual chains, on individual assets, what we're not doing though is expanding the liquidity that's available in the ecosystem. And so for us, we really are working to bring in regulated and in secure manners, banks, asset managers, commodity exchanges, and more.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm Fadi Jaber. I'm the head of partnerships at Mimo Capital. We're a venture studio based out of Dubai, and we spin off our own projects. We have a clear mandate on DeFi, RWAs, and everything that involves working with institutionals and retail. The way we approach tokenization is from a very, very regulated perspective. We're regulated in Liechtenstein, probably one of the first company to have obtained a regulation in the EEA to tokenize real-world assets in a regulated fashion. And as Ryan said, we definitely have a need to be expanding in that vertical. A lot of people tend to overlook how important for the space and how important for also the global economy it is to be able to import. They tend to maybe not see how big it's going to become, and believe that in the next couple years, most of everything that is traded in the real world is going to be on the blockchain.
Hey everyone, I'm Kaushik. I'm the co-founder at Zot. At Zot, we are trying to bring in regulated fixed income products on chain. By that I mean most of the bonds, most of the products that you see on chain, that includes all the RWAs tokenized. A lot of the hype came in from the tokenization of fixed income products such as bonds, treasuries primarily. But what we have realized is 99.5% of the overall RWA market is actually just treasuries, nothing else, right? But on the other hand, if you look at traditional finance market, you have only out of the $130 trillion worth of fixed income products, that includes AAA bonds, AA bonds, all the bond market, right? Only 20% of that is treasuries, right? Of course, we are taking baby steps towards diversifying ourselves throughout the traditional finance markets are. What Zot is doing is actually accelerating that. We are bringing more and more high quality fixed income products on chain. Our latest offering is called ZTLN, which is essentially a portfolio of 25% treasuries and 75% AA, AAA rated corporate bonds. We actually bring this from a regulated jurisdiction like Luxembourg. We have acquired necessary legal structures to do this in a compliant manner. Our clients are essentially treasuries, DAOs, HNIs, institutions across crypto. We also have a layer of like making this token permissionless as well. That includes on the primary side, people can issue these bond tokens with KYC, KYB, but we also want to scale that to DeFi, in a permissionless manner. So that's primarily what Zoth is.
Yeah, very interesting. I think what I heard is, especially the last two panelists, Fadi and Kaushik, you had a special emphasis on regulation. I think that's very important because, of course, when you think about traditional finance and then trying to mirror some of the processes into this new sector called tokenization or RWA, you of course have different functions like who needs to do who does the issuance, who does the custody, who's the broker, who does the asset management. And these are very highly regulated, I think, functions. So I would like to maybe know from you guys how you as representatives of your companies are trying to navigate this regulatory landscape and the dynamics. And also, like which maybe jurisdictions are probably more favorable towards tokenization. Maybe let's start with from the end.
Yeah, so this is the question that we think about and that doesn't let us sleep in the night because it's hard to answer, right? Now, let's come back to the last question which was brought in, which regulatory jurisdiction is the best? There's no clear-cut answer, but definitely there's two types of jurisdictions. One are highly compliant. I would say Luxembourg and most of the European jurisdictions are highly compliant. That means you can scale your product to any end user. Anyone across the globe can buy them. But they're expensive and they're hard to build partnerships. It's very hard to it took 6 months for us to just get the right broker dealer approval, right? And we spent almost 150, 200K just to get the right legal structures onboarded. It's not every startup doesn't have such capital right up front to start these regulatory structures. But at the same time, there's like jurisdictions like I would say Bermuda, there's Panama, there's a bunch of these jurisdictions which are easy to start. You can deploy fast. They give you like a structure, like a license structure in 4 weeks. But again, there is like a gray area involved because they could be DAOs or they could be institutions who are based in certain countries who might be reluctant in investing in products launched from Panama, launched from Bermuda, right? It's not that it's a showstopper anymore. There's a lot of companies who have launched from Panama, Bermuda scaling, but definitely it's not the perfect ideal jurisdiction, right? So there's no clear-cut answer. But for Zoth specifically, the way we did it was we went forward with the best jurisdiction that we could afford, that we could find, that we could bootstrap, right? And for us, Luxembourg made sense because one, it offers the flexibility in terms of regulation. There is a law that states that certain types of products can be tokenized and can legally exist on top of on-chain data. So we actually created an SPV. We are working with Swissquote Interactive Brokers on acquiring these assets. We are working with EDB, which is the licensed custodian who holds almost $2-3 billion in AUM. We also have our own SPV that we have created to tokenize these products and hold customer funds. We work with only licensed crypto custodians to hold customer funds before we off-ramp and deploy it into the bonds. All of the structure, and one part we have realized is you have to do everything on your own, most of the cases, because it's difficult to verify third parties. You'll get into a lot of complications if you don't do everything on your own. But yeah, that's primarily my take.
Thank you. I think he covered a lot of ground. We also kind of like have the same sort of like regulatory body as our friends. We decided to go this way because of who we're targeting. It depends on who you're targeting whenever you want to do whenever you choose your regulatory your body. If you're going for institutionals and if you're going for high trust, I believe you need to have a regulated body, and having it in Europe is usually the top jurisdiction you can have for this sort of things. And we started this in early 2022, and it took us also like a good part of a year to get this kickstarted. It was pretty early, to say the least. So I think as companies like ours move forward with this type of stuff, the regulators themselves get more accustomed to working with blockchains, and it gets easier for the next people who come after. So kind of like setting the trend here. And we also have like another layer, which is permissionless, and it's kind of hard to explain to people and to navigate. But we tokenize, bonds, TradFi assets, etc., in the form of a regulated NFT. And then we have another layer, which is called the Kuma protocol, that allows you to stake that NFT and exchanges it for ERC20s. And then they can be rebase tokens, etc., depending on if it's stable yield, then it's easy. But if you have variable yield, then having a rebase becomes like kind of hard. So explaining this to the regulators and how it's going to work, they don't understand that other permissionless side of things. They don't really want to know about this. So you need to have a different jurisdiction for that permissionless part, which can be Panama, which can be something else. But for the regulated part, I think Europe is the golden standard, I think, so far. It allows you to work with pretty much everybody, except for certain parts of the world, obviously, where you don't really want to work with them because you might get burned. And yes, so basically, yeah, that's pretty much my take on it.
Yeah, I'll definitely come in with I think, probably counter take to both of their approaches and how we've approached regulation. For us, we started with partners. I believe in every jurisdiction, particularly for security offerings to even just tokenized assets, there's a lot of unique ways of going to market, and your investors and from your broker dealers to your ATSs to your just people you're trying to target with marketing are going to be very different. And so we approached it by partnering with people like InvestX, Securitize, Black Manta, mid-chains in Dubai, and giving ourselves a global reach pretty quickly. The secondary to that, though, is making sure that we're doing everything we can to remain compliant for the future. The big reason why banks and why a lot of institutions are so scared to come into this is that we've watched the SEC come after people 4 or 5 years later. We've watched Europe change its regulations quite quickly and in ways that could make you no longer compliant. And so we kind of strive to be always KYCing, AMLing, making sure that every interaction that's happening on chain, we know who it is, where it's coming from, and ultimately who that end user is. That may not be the ethos of crypto, but that is the way we start to tokenize the world, is to really keep a bit more centralized focus in the short term, and then be able to bring it decentralized and permissionless as the world gets more comfortable with it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think somehow RWA is like a little bit centralized in a lot of ways. But I mean, I think the regulation side, hello? Okay, on the regulation side, like, we kind of like take two different approach. One is like, if it's touch upon the US like treasury bill, I think we will take the most like the best way to keep the assets safe. That's why we work with like BlackRock, rather than there's other TPO projects also have BVA entity and the other like offshore entity, which is like we don't feel that safe. But on the other side, like for the like other yield generation like asset on chain, we also working with Binance Sifu to working on to attract the institution fund in on-chain and generate the LST and the native yield. And that part, like, there's custodian to keep the asset safe, but at the same time, this like listed company in Hong Kong or in like general Asia, they don't have to, like fully very care about the license or care about this kind of like this kind of things, or like super strong regulation to report their like investment. so they are actually can go through Binance Safe, at least to keep the assets safe, but don't have to make everything at the same yield and keep the regulation in the only way to solve it.
Thank you. We talked a little bit about regulation, and it seems like it's very important, what's your end goal, who you're targeting, whether you're more on the risk management side, so you might maybe be fine setting up your legal entities in offshore versus onshore. So I think this was a little bit more theoretical, I think. But I think maybe for the audience, it might be interesting to also have some more plastic examples how tokenization can affect their lives, and also what kind of value tokenized real-world assets can bring to the users, whether it's institutionals or whether it's maybe retail people. So just to make it very plastic, can you give us maybe one example how you currently or in the future will try to provide value to your target audience with real-world asset tokenization?
I see, the real world asset, is kind of, the user do it because the yield generator is a yield generator, right? And I don't see there's other reason, maybe credential, but I think the main reason is on the yield generation, and this yield coming from outside crypto world rather than just PVP or just create yield through launch token, launch new asset. All of those two ways now make sense compared to have the real world yield, and that yield actually can make user access globally. That's what is the value of the RWA.
Yeah, I think I have kind of two distinct answers on this one. I think for a crypto native, the reason why RWAs are exciting is it's going to bring a lot of liquidity in the marketplace. It's pretty much that simple, is that this is how we onboard the next trillions of dollars into the ecosystem. It's how we're able to leverage our Bitcoin, Ethereum holdings into sustainable yields that are not just coming from airdrops and farming and lending protocols that are putting 20-30% there, but also risking your Bitcoin, your Ethereum, et cetera. It's a lot easier to lend against gold, oil, things like that when we're talking about our stuff. The other, though, and I think this is what's really cool about this space, is traditional finance is a dinosaur. It has fraud, corruption, all sorts of very long, tedious procedures, red tape, things like that have slowed down everything around us. I think we can all in this room probably say sending money internationally, still a problem, still takes a really long time. Getting a check in from an investor can take months, things like that. What RWAs allow is for us to actually bring the crypto rails into banks, into institutions, into global entities, and really start to build the future of finance. And so I think this is the easy first step for a JP Morgan, for a government to really be able to wrap their head around what we've been doing the last 10 years in the space.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with Ryan. There's clearly a bottleneck as to how much we can grow in the space without having money from the real world, because life started, we've been living for the past billions of years in the real world, and we've been building here, and everything we know and can touch and exchange and trade has been real. Those yields that Ryan mentioned, we've seen so many of them collapse because they're just recycling the same liquidity over and over. So bringing, there's so many things out there that are fractionable, but in the real world they're not. On-chain, if you have the proper oracles and you have the proper traceability, you can actually go ahead, tokenize them, bring that liquidity on-chain, allow people who don't have access to these items to purchase them, allow people who couldn't buy, for example, an apartment to be able to purchase like 1/10 of an apartment. And I think as we move forward, regulation, tech, oracles, etc., as we move forward and we get chains like Ryan's, for example, which we're excited to work with, it's what we need, because we need a framework to be able to do this. Individual projects, it's hard for us to kind of like do it by ourselves. So having sort of like a chain, a platform that does this for you and makes your life easier for projects like us, it's really important, because we want to scale. And if we want to scale, we cannot spend too much time dealing with every single thing. So I think that's why chains that are focused on RWAs are going to be big, in my opinion. And when it comes to what we tokenize and how it can like impact people, well, think about it this way: we tokenize, for example, Bitcoin miners. We tokenize AI computing power. So these H100s, these A100s, these GPUs, most people don't really have access to them, or if they buy it, they have to host it themselves. It's kind of hard. When it's on chain, you can track it, you know where it is. The tricky part is, again, how to validate that TVL on chain. Who's your oracle? Who makes sure that, the proof of reserves, right? Who makes sure that it's here? But we've kind of figured it out. I think everybody here has a different approach. Maybe we're working with the same people, maybe we're not. But I think eventually, in time, everybody's going to own some sort of assets on chain.
Yeah, I would just give a quick take because like most of the points are already covered. But if you think about like what tokenization is, it's nothing. You have dollar was started because of tokenization of gold. Dollar used to be backed by gold. All the bonds are nothing but tokenized form of something underneath. All the mutual funds are nothing but tokenized form of something else. I think the real value that tokenization as a concept is nothing but creating a product on top of, as a derivative on top of something that is underlying. And as a concept, it's the same. But think about why did we tokenize, why did we start mutual funds? Why did we start REITs? Why did we start ETFs? It's easy access, right? And stuff like, for the user, it's ETFs sort of change the reconciliation to days from months compared to mutual funds, right? Now, the process of tokenization should actually improve the access, improve the reconcilability, improve the transparency. And if all of these three can be done just by using another layer of technology, could it be blockchain, could it be something else? I believe the purpose gets solved, right? And I think tokenizing bonds would solve the problem that limits ETFs, where the reconcilability is just 1 day, 24 hours, to real time. Right now, you can literally real time know how many assets are underneath and just reconcile with them immediately, right? I think if you can, and also access. Now, ETFs, you have to buy it from one vendor, but if you tokenize bonds, can you buy it anywhere across any chain, any network, with any token? That's kind of like easy access, right? Easy availability. I think that should be the target, and that is the target for most of the companies working in this space, at least in what I see.
Yeah, thank you. I think this was very interesting. I especially liked that you guys mentioned that we are trying two things at the same time, essentially. So one, we're trying to mirror the financial assets in TradFi onto blockchain. But also, Ryan, you mentioned we are also trying to get the crypto rails integrated into TradFi. So I think this essentially shows what's the magnitude of what we're trying to do here. But at the same time, I think we are very small. Tokenized space is very small. If we take out, I think, stablecoin market cap, which is like 170 billion right now, there's only maybe less than 5 billion tokenized at the moment, something like that. And I think 5 billion is right, just a rounding error in TradFi, which means that there's so much growth potential to be explored. Maybe almost last question here. We mentioned about big frameworks, things like that. So what kind of challenges do you see currently, or what kind of developments would you like to see to really bring this new sector, this new narrative to the next level? How do we onboard the next trillion USD to blockchain or to this industry, and what kind of changes would you like to see, be it regulation or education or anything?
Yeah, I was actually, we were just talking about the same problem previously. I don't see like the next trillion will be onboarded within crypto. I completely agree with your views because it's a limited space. If you think about like stable coins, they're nothing but tokenized dollar, right? It's literally that. And the same elements that you use in tokenizing a dollar to USDC is the same, literal same regulatory structure you have to use to tokenize a bond. It's no different, right? So I believe like we need to get products that can get liquidity from outside crypto. By that, I mean, if Standard Chartered can start giving their asset classes on the blockchain, offer the asset class to their LPs on a blockchain, that means people will have to buy stable coins to buy that asset, right? So that's how you onboard the next extra billions of dollars, because people are buying not to buy another token in the market, but to actually buy a financial product that's issued by Standard Chartered. So I believe it can be only done by institutions who will use blockchain to serve their customers. And of course, at least what I see in crypto is all of the stablecoin, yield-bearing stablecoins, etc. The actual product is the incentives. Like I've talked to so many other yield-bearing stablecoins, including Mountains of the World, including like Usual Monies, etc. All of them have like some sort of incentives going on beyond just the stablecoin yield. I think that can definitely suffice the few $1 trillion market cap that crypto has, but to actually get more, we need to serve this as a product that Standard Chartered and other banks can actually give to their customers so that they can use the blockchain to buy the product.
Yeah, I think for us, it's a lot of the problem lies in, and I think a lot of the solution will also lie in having global understanding from a regulatory perspective on who owns what is considered legal, and a lot of that stuff, right? Because when we talk about bonds and we talk about like T-bills, etc., it's rather easy to tokenize. There's no big deal, which is why whenever we tokenize some assets, what we do is actually we do not tokenize the actual asset. We do not tokenize a Bitcoin miner. We make a bond that we get validated within our jurisdiction, with our compliance, and then we tokenize that bond, right? And it pays a certain yield. If you want to, I think for us to move forward with this, we're gonna need to be able to tokenize assets, like the actual asset. And to tokenize the actual asset, be it an apartment, be it like a table, be it a car, you need somebody, and you need as a user, as the person who purchases it, you need to feel confident about, okay, if anything goes wrong, I'm going to be able to claim some sort of damages or some sort of, I need to feel like it's backed not only by the asset, but backed by law. And I think once we're moving towards that, I think that will, on top of course, what my colleague here said, you're going to be able to onboard the next, trillion of users, as we like to say it. So yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, I think they hit a lot of it on the right nail on the head. I mean, I agree with everything that was just stated there. I think that's where, from an industry perspective, we need to be. I'll put a challenge more so to the, crypto community. And I think the biggest problem we have in crypto getting institutional adoption is the fact that we take pride on not telling people where the money came from, who has the money, what it is. What that means is crypto has a reputation in most institutions as being money laundering, being illicit activities, Silk Road, things like that. We as an industry just need to start holding ourselves more accountable, change our culture a little bit, and let ourselves, evolve into something where we're able to actually get to these regulatory compliance, get to where the average person's Bitcoin can actually enter a banking system, because right now it really can't. And I think until we do that, we will always have this kind of us versus them mentality. And the reality is traditional finance owns 99% of assets in the world. So we definitely need to make sure that they're able and willing to work with us.
Yeah, I think we to get like product market fit, first need a better product. I think product design is really important to attract new users. Besides the product, I think how to find the real user is important. This is more like a pitching game, I think, to find the whales and to find the new money, to get into this real world investment, and then make them have better experience to invest compared to the existing Web2 experience. That's actually pretty important. I think generally the product design should make the go-to-market much easier, rather than you design product and then no one want to buy it, and even do a lot of branding or marketing. or there's vice versa, like some good product, and need to also find great users through some like Web2 like ways to grow. Like to retail, there can be like referral system, and to institution, you need to have really legit partner and keep pitching. Like that's what I think.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your insights. Very last question, everyone, maybe like 30 seconds. It's a two-part question actually. So A, who should reach out to you, and or what are you looking for here in Korea?
I'm about to leave, yeah, I think we really care about regional community, and there's a lot of partners. So that's actually like builders and anyone can help us go to market. We are working on, and we are happy to chat. And for the yeah, and also I'm looking for the more product, keep building, deploy related to attract new users, and new money to get on board, and to achieve higher to get more capital efficiency and enjoy the better yield, and not only yield part but product part.
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet, and thanks for attending, and thanks for having us. For us, if you're an RWA project in any form, shape, fashion, come reach out. What we're building is a liquidity solution for you. So always happy to partner with any projects in the space, and then right now have a round open, so if you're an investor, please come talk.
Yeah, so for us, if you're institutional, whether you're a retail user, if you're looking for some sort of tokenized assets that are a bit more exotic than what's on the market, please come talk to us. If you're a chain that is building RWA frameworks, then also super happy to talk. And thank you for having us. It was great. Thank you everybody for attending.
Yeah, thanks for having us. For us, I think we are looking at different ways to expand the product. We are the only RWA that's focusing on bringing regulated products to retail. So we are doing a pilot with Manta. We are also doing a pilot with different DEXs around the world. So the goal is to expand the reach to our yield-bearing token to everyone, and there's some nice campaigns that are coming up as well. So if you're a layer 1, layer 2, or just an institution looking at diversifying your treasury, you can come talk to us.
If I can ask you to stay for a picture, please. Thank you very much to all of our speakers. Thank you one more time, and let's get ready for our second panel. We are here to dive into the convergence of DePIN, AI, and RWA, three key pillars that are driving the next wave of innovation in the decentralized networks. For this panel, I would like to invite on the stage the following speakers: Pankaj Agrawal, the head of protocol at Witness Chain; Arthur Tan, founder and CEO of Philoquid; Arjan Mishra, founder and director of Mizo; and Anil Murthy, VP of Engineer at Akash Network, please. For this panel, we are going to have Chloe for a moderator, co-founder and a co-CEO of U2U Network. Please join us.
Hi, hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being with us today. So my name is Chloe. I'm a co-founder and co-CEO of U2 Network. We are modular DePIN layer 1 and backed by IDG Capital. the one that backlight more than unicorn around the world, and also KuCoin Venture, Web 3.0, and so on. So my honor to be the moderator of our panel today. They've been the backbone of the future network. And joining me the panel today, there is some other gentlemen here, so I will give them the chance to answer, to introduce about themselves and also the project that they are working.
Hi guys, first and foremost, thank you so much Mizzle team for inviting me to this panel discussion. We are a liquidity staking protocol. It's a lending and borrowing protocol for the largest decentralized storage, DePIN primitive, which is known as Filecoin. Filecoin has been around since 2014, and of course today is comfortably sit at about a total of market cap is 2 billion. When we think about storage, of course, oftentimes we think about Filecoin. So ever since Filecoin has established a FVM since last year, which is compatible with EVM, we have actually built a lending and borrowing protocol, and hence we have gone through 2 rigorous testing of testnet. And we just launched our mainnet, which was about 6 weeks ago. And right now, we are reaching TVL of 3M. So essentially, it's just very simple. Like if there's any Filecoin holders, we allow the Filecoin holders to lend, lease, and stake to make a higher passive income. And of course, on the borrowing side, it's where we actually encourage the borrowers, which is known as the storage providers, to loan the Filecoins directly from the liquidity pool. So as to date, we are the only fully decentralized open source with a governance tokens among all the lending and staking protocols for the Filecoin.
Hey everyone, I'm Pankaj, the head of protocol from Witness Chain team. Thanks for having me here, Mizzle team. So what Witness Chain is building is sort of trust layer for DePINs. You can think of it as a physical asset verification layer for DePINs. So as we see, what blockchains enabled was trustlessly executing any digital state transition, and anyone can sort of come and permissionlessly build innovative digital applications on top of it. What DePINs are trying to do is bring the similar decentralized innovation to the infrastructure space, but this sort of trust layer is lacking for them, and we sort of come in and build this trust layer for the DePINs where we can validate various physical attributes for these DePIN nodes, like location, bandwidth, performance, storage capacities, and more. And this has multiple applications down the line where you can, for example, once you have verified certain physical assets, you can tokenize them in a permissionless manner and let's say build a commodities market on top of it, fully permissionless. Or you can enable low latency applications based on real-time location for the DePIN nodes, right? If you're doing some kind of edge application, let's say you want to use your neighbor's GPU for gaming, you can only do it if you're sure that the GPU exists close to you. And many such applications, and also like compliance, and the list is endless. But essentially, all of this comes as an crypto-economically secure platform, and we bootstrapped it as an AVS on EigenLayer. We are currently secured by more than $7 billion in crypto-economic security on mainnet, and we have like 35 plus partners on the DePIN side. We're working with plenty of teams here also, with Akash, with U2U, and with Mizzle also. So that's sort of an overview of Witness Chain and what we are building. Happy to be here. Thanks.
Hey everyone, my name is Anil Murthy, and I lead the product and engineering team at Overclock Labs. Overclock Labs is the creator of Akash Network, and Akash Network, if you're not familiar with it, is the world's first super cloud. Akash Network got started about 5 years ago. We launched our mainnet in 2019. So we pretty much coined the word DePIN in some ways. So we've had compute resources on the network for 5 years now. We introduced GPU support a year and a half ago. And since then, we've seen a huge number of applications being run on Akash, everything ranging from static websites to databases to AI inference apps, training apps, all sorts of things. The big benefits that people get from using Akash is primarily around the fact that there is a huge number of locations where there's compute resources available, significantly larger already than the centralized clouds. And then most of the resources are available at a significantly lower cost than traditional cloud companies. We have seen a huge amount of interest from obviously Web3 companies, but more recently from Web2 companies as well. Some of the big examples of users that are using Akash today include a project called Venice.ai. You can check out Venice.ai. It's essentially a open alternative to ChatGPT, and that uses Akash today, so they are on Akash. There's also a company called Brev.dev, which actually ironically got acquired by NVIDIA recently. They are a customer of Akash, so technically NVIDIA is also a customer of Akash at this point. And then there is another company called Prime Intellect that's that's training new AI models, and they're using Akash for that as well. The one thing that differentiates Akash, apart from the fact that we have actual real users running on our network now, is the fact that we're radically open source. So literally all of our source code is open, and everything that is done on Akash is done in a radically open source way as well.
Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. So I'm Arjun Mishra. We just started Missile Cloud a couple of months back. We've raised like $1.5 million in pre-seed. The problem we're trying to solve is the enterprise's problem to use and access the decentralized layers that is there. And apart from that, deploy applications much more easily on the platform and the infrastructure that is there in the DeepIn ecosystem. Today, what we find is developers find it very, very difficult and need specific DevOps engineers to actually do this task. What we'll be creating is an AI-based layer, which will help them do it much more easily. And I think in the times to come, the focus on enterprise is what will decide how the next infrastructure of DeepIn comes along. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for the introduction. So when I had a chat with Anu downstairs, he asked me like, why do we need a layer 1 for DeepIn? So that inspired me for a question for you gentlemen. Do you think we need DeepIn? Do the world need DeepIn? Do humans need DeepIn?
So I think to begin first, to really understand, to dissect the understandings of DeepIn, I'll try my level best to explain DeepIn in the simplest way that where even I hope my 5-year-old nieces will even understand. Now, assuming all of us here want to build a very large playground, but we don't have enough resources, so each and every one of us will bring something that either myself will bring a slide, probably this gentleman over here right beside me will bring a swing, probably the 2 other gentlemen will bring a toys. And hooray, right now, we will able to build a playground that all of us will get to play together. But essentially, because all of us are bringing something to contribute to this large playground that we want to play together, and there's nobody, there's not only one person will be taking charge of the paying everything. So hence, all of us combining together, we were able to play this playground together by deploying these resources, in this one big playground together. Essentially, the benefits of this playground is where, number 1, there's no single entity is taking over the playground. Number 2, we are all contributing it together to build a larger and more fun playground than we ever imagined. And number 3, that we are all sharing these resources together. Now, to bring back the question of whether do we need DeepIn, I mean, let's get real. The narrative of DeepIn today, if DeepIn doesn't exist today, we still were able to survive. The world will still continue, right? But if we look at it at the narrative of how DeepIn is growing, personally, I'm super bullish with DeepIn. The question is when DeepIn will really reach the mass adoption. That still really lingers as $1 million question mark. But if we ask today yourself, there are already a lot of projects that are incentivizing the community. Probably are more familiar with the storage. If we are talking about decentralized data storage, it has given a great challenge to the centralized storage. 1 terabyte of a data storage will cost you 17 cents, and versus with a centralized storage, which is $22 and $23. And we are talking about 122x cheaper. With the AI era that we're living in today, there's two biggest superfood which are needed. It's compute power and also data storage. And here we are asking ourselves, like any entities or any enterprise out there, if you want to keep growing your data storage, it's no-brainer for any entities to be going forward with a decentralized data storage. And of course, I'm seeing a lot of other probably verticals will be shaped simply because DePIN, for the first time ever, allowing the incentive mechanism that all of us coming together to be contributing into one that's not being monopolized by one player, by one entity, and essentially we're all rewarded at the same time. And I think that is something that I'm very, very stoked to be looking forward to how DePIN will be shaping the entire ecosystem. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so not for 5-year-olds answer. I'll probably give more technical and philosophical part of it. Philosophy-wise, I think what blockchain fundamentally brought to our world, let's say what Satoshi did in his Bitcoin work, was bridge the global divide of trust in financial applications. His goal was more about having this single currency or single digital asset that can be traded globally without anyone being able to regulate or stop you from doing that. And similar innovation coming to infrastructure layer is what DePIN is. And DePIN as a term is not something, as a term is new, but as a concept is not something very new. Filecoin has been building it for much longer than when the DePIN term actually came in. Similarly, a lot of other networks and this concept has been around for quite some while now. DePIN just brought it all together under a shared umbrella, which everyone understands and sort of can relate to. There were a lot of projects which were already building, and they were like, oh, I don't know which narrative I should tie up to, and now they're like, oh yeah, I am DePIN. But they were already doing this. And that's for a good reason, because it's actually very necessary. If you look at the where our world is headed right now, if you want to deploy any large-scale infra, let's say you want to deploy a 5G network, that's only possible by two kind of entities. One is very big corporates. We call them like dinosaurs or monsters. And the others are governments, because they are very, very capital intensive and requires and also very regulated. What DePIN enables us to expand this much broader, so you don't need one single entity to put up a very large amount of capital. Community can sort of contribute in their own locality to whatever resource they have to bootstrap this network much faster. And then the prices go down significantly, again, because a single party don't control all this infrastructure, and it's totally market driven. Third, if you think about existing resources, so DePINs are two types. One where you require specialized hardware and you deploy new resources. The other where you reutilize existing resources. So in the DePINs where you reutilize existing resources, you're sort of solving a global optimization problem of resources, where resources always existed at some place and they were cheaper there because there's no demand but a lot of supply. At some other place globally, there's a lot of demand but there's no supply. And now you can sort of bridge this globally in a permissionless manner. And this goes back to the philosophy from which the goes back to the basis of the decentralization philosophy. So I think DePIN is very necessary and probably more so because of the ownership aspect, so that nobody actually tells you what you need to pay for certain resource, physical resource, and it's probably just driven by markets.
Yeah, so first of all, I'll caveat this by saying that I'm going to only talk about the value of DePIN in the context of compute networks, because that's what we do. I don't know much about the other types of DePINs. And then specifically, what I think matters the most at the end of the day is whenever you think about a new technology or a new product or a service, what new user value does it drive? That's literally what it comes down to. If there's no new user value being driven, then we're just wasting our time. So with those two in mind, for compute, if you look at back, the last 20 years, the biggest change that has happened in terms of how people consume compute is that we went from people running their own data centers for everything that they want to do, to people using cloud resources. So if you look back at like 2005 or 2006, when AWS and Amazon invented the concept of a cloud, basically the idea was at that point, if you were a startup with 2 people or 10 people or 50 people, and you wanted to build a product or a service, the barrier to entry was really high. Meaning, if you wanted to get started, then you had to have a huge amount of capital that you had to go and invest in standing up a data center or allocating resources in some data center where you can spin up servers to bring up your service, right? So that basically limited the number of people that can get started with various things. What the cloud did was basically enable people to get started with relatively low cost. And what that led to over time is a significant amount of innovation happening as a result of people being able to create startups really fast, right? If you now fast forward to the last couple of years and look at what's been going on with the startup ecosystem, a big shift obviously is people building AI applications. And the primary need on the compute side when you think about AI is accelerated compute, and more commonly known as GPUs right now, but generally accelerated compute. And so when you think about accelerated compute and the need for it for building anything AI, the challenge with that is there is one company in the world that makes all the accelerated compute today, which is NVIDIA, and there's only so much they can produce in terms of GPUs. And so what that does is it creates a scarcity for these types of chips in the world. And so what ends up happening is that if you want to build an AI application or you want to offer an inference service today, you're locked out from being able to do that because there is limited availability of this hardware. So, for example, today, if you want to take the leading open source AI model, which is Meta Llama 3.1, and run it and do inference with it, it's a really capable model. The problem is it requires 8 H100 GPUs to run at minimum. And if you're talking about like a highly quantized version of it, it could require 16 or even 24 GPUs to run. The challenge is if you go to AWS and try to get it from AWS, they'll require you to commit to 64 of these GPUs and do that for 3 months to 1 year. And that's a huge amount of expenditure upfront for you, which is effectively killing the cloud model. So if you take all that together, what's happened as a result of this huge demand for GPUs and only one company being able to produce them is we're back to the old days of people that can innovate, other people that have to have a huge amount of capital upfront. So that's basically the problem. So the question now is how does DeepIn solve this problem? DeepIn is just a term, but how does basically decentralization solve this problem? The way it solves it is by essentially making people be able to share their compute. So with a network like Akash, for example, let's say a bigger company today or even a mid-sized startup decides to go and do a commit to AWS and get a huge number of these GPUs. They might use the GPU cluster for training for 1 month and not use it for the next month. So the time that they're not using it, they can bring it on Akash and make it available to somebody else, right? So you're effectively monetizing the capital expenditure that you put into your into building your business and being able to reap some of the costs that you've or get back some of the costs that you've invested in it. So that's one big benefit. The other big benefit of decentralized networks, at least compute networks, is that because anybody can essentially participate in providing compute, there's enough data centers in the world with compute that have excess capacity that's not being utilized. And I'm talking about general compute at this point. So what benefit it brings is that as we scale up, for example, Akash today has 65 different providers of compute across the world. So think of these as individual data centers, 65 of them across the world. This is already more than what Azure or AWS has in terms of regions. Why is this important? The reason it's important is because the more locations you have in the world, the lower the latency for the applications that are trying to run on them. So if you're, for example, trying to build an application, I don't know, in Vietnam, for example, there is no data center for AWS in Vietnam today. So if you have users trying to use an application in Vietnam, they're going to go over to the nearest country that AWS has a data center in, and that's going to cause a huge amount of latency. If Akash reaches a scale where we have hundreds or thousands of providers, which we hope to get to in the next few years, then we could potentially have a situation where we have a data center in every single country and maybe even every single city of the world, right? So that's a huge benefit as well. So those are probably the two biggest benefits I can think of. And cost is another benefit. So regular compute, for example, on Akash can be as low as 80% cheaper than what you can get on traditional services. So.
No, I completely agree with what Sanil said. I would just like to add that, of course, Deepin is just a form of an RWA, actually. I mean, it's actually a subset of RWA. We're just taking real-world physical assets and tokenizing them for providers or anybody in a way so that they can actually, I mean, you can raise more funds much more easily and make it accessible to those people also to start earning money. And for the other side of for the tenancy side of the market, it makes it much more easier and cheaper, as he mentioned, for them to access all of those resources, which right now are running in a very centralized environment. On the other end, there are other benefits also. For example, see, as we know, absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? Today, Google running Gemini has access to so much of our data that if they continue, or these centralized AI systems continue to run at the way they are, we risk a lot of things. For example, I had one of my data inside my Google Sheets, and when I asked Gemini about it, it knew that data. So that, I mean, there are things that are happening on the back end wherein for the AI systems to grow in future, we need a decentralized ecosystem which is actually running them. So there is also a need coming in from the regulatory side on how do you control the pace at which the AI and the blockchain ecosystem is expanding. And to control that, Deepins could be one of the platforms that could help them do that. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for all the answer. This question is not on the question list that I share with them at all, but all the answer make me so happy. Yeah, so to conclude on that, do we need DeepIn? Do humans need DeepIn? Do the world need DeepIn? After hearing all the answer, I think we don't need DeepIn. But DeepIn is the innovation, right? That democratize how we access into all the resources in the world, like GPU, file storage, and also data for AI. And as well, it's also have to create clear the single point of failure in the traditional system. And it's also have that to reduce significantly the cost, the operation cost of startup or enterprise if we use decentralized GPU from Akash, or for example file storage, right? Like Ether already mentioned, 220 times cheaper if we use decentralized file storage. So going to the next question. So guys, last bull run, everyone say GameFi gonna make blockchain going to mass adoption, right? For this cycle, many people also believe that DeepIn gonna bring blockchain into mass adoption. So do you agree with that statement? And give me some example of some exciting DeepIn product or project that you think that can make that statement become true. How about I start with Mizu? Yeah.
So, I mean, I think, see, mass adoption comes, who are the companies who actually have real users right now? They are the legacy systems. So, for example, we have a partnership going on with one of the telecom operators where we will be shifting the storage and offering it to the users, all of their users, to shift additional storage onto a decentralized platform. Now, that gives us an accessibility to a huge network of users. We have to find different ways in which we acquire the next 100 million or a billion users onto the crypto ecosystem. And for doing that, actually, Deepins could be the best platform. I mean, storage is the biggest play in this. And it could be the next thing that helps Deepin acquire the next $1 trillion on crypto. Yeah.
I guess the question was, which project do you believe is going to actually gain mass adoption? I'm very bullish on Akash for obvious reasons, otherwise I wouldn't be doing what I do. But the reasons for why. So the reasons for why is very simple, which is if you want to be able to gain mass adoption, you need two things. you need a real problem, a pain point that exists in the user base that you're going after that gives them a reason for them to consider your solution. And then second, you need a easy way for them to transition to your product or service. That's it. You need those two things. If you have those two things, then unless you execute really badly, you have a good chance of gaining mass adoption. And so specifically speaking of Akash, those two things, number one, I talked about the pain point, which is if you're a startup today trying to build an AI application or do something with AI, you're pretty much locked out of being able to do that because of the reasons that I mentioned before. And Akash, if we can execute well, essentially is positioned to solve that problem. The second part of it is how do you make it such that it's not a huge barrier for the customers to transition from whatever service or solution they're using today to using your solution. And on that vein, essentially what we're doing to make that happen is solving two problems. Number one, making it such that the blockchain and the wallets and the tokens are just the means in which the coordination of resources happens, but it's not something that the user needs to see. So effectively what you'll see on Akash later this year is any user that goes onto console.akash.network, which is basically our equivalent of AWS console, they can get started on using Akash without ever knowing that it's running on a blockchain, without ever knowing that it has a token, without ever knowing that it's a decentralized network. And so pretty much the same user experience that you can get from a traditional cloud or a traditional platform as a service like Vercel or Netlify or anything else that you might know of. So being able to solve that problem and make it look like it's just another cloud service, even though there's a blockchain underneath and there's tokens underneath that are used for coordination of all these resources, from an end user perspective, it looks exactly the same. So that's basically what we got to solve. Once we solve that and then bring value in terms of being able to give access to these high-end GPUs and then lower cost on all the other types of compute, then we'll get huge mass adoption, and I'm very confident about that.
Yeah, I think I double-click with what Anil said. User experience plays a huge role. Even now, not just in DeepIn, in all of crypto, I think user experience is horrible. Bringing new users into Web3 is very tremendous. And with all the modular narrative that's going on, which is good for scalability, but it fragments liquidity and kind of destroys user experience even further. And I know there are some projects trying to fix for that. There are chain abstraction projects. There are projects like Aglier from Polygon that's trying to fix the liquidity problem and more. But I think, again, like Anil said, if you can make a experience for the user, which is sort of indistinguishable from a Web3 application to a Web2 application, even in DeepIn's case, in this case, like a Web2 cloud service versus a cloud service that's running over a DeepIn network, that definitely has a lot of good signals for or good ways to get mass adoption compared to something that is more crypto native. That said, I think crypto space itself can also expand thanks to DeepIn. But what's lacking right now is education. I don't think a lot of people, even within crypto space, understand exactly what DeepIn is or how it functions and more. Going outside DeepIn space, going outside crypto space and bringing in more users into DeepIn to crypto via DeepIn is a much more difficult challenge, and probably abstracting it away completely is the way to go. Will it happen this cycle? Probably not. But yeah, there's definitely scope in future.
So I partially agree and partially disagree, some of the narrative. I think before we talk about the mass adoption, I think the part that I really agree most is it's first, we really have to identify what are really the real challenges of DeepIn. So I personally, going back to how I explained DeepIn just now, the playground, right? I always test it with my 5-year-old niece and my 70-year-old plus mom. And if they don't understand, which means that everything is still very complex. I tried to train my mom to use a MetaMask for 5 years, and till today she still doesn't know how to, so I've given up other way. So yes, the UI UX part of DeepIn, it's so complex. And I think the word DeepIn is decentralized physical infrastructure. It's already so complex, and just trying to jump on it, it's really far more challenging, right? And the next thing is I think if we talk about scalability, yeah, I mean, we have the incentive, mechanism, rewarding people. Everybody loves to be rewarded, the community. But let's look at it. The DeepIn is still relying very much on a single node, and that node to maintain that that consistency, it's also a real question mark as well. That how to balance, to strike that balancing grounds for that. The next thing is I also want to touch on interoperability as well, to how to interoperate between the physical infrastructure and also the decentralized network as well. And it becoming very complex at the same time. And how are we able to have that seamless integration between these two networks coming together? And hence, if the interoperability it's not smooth, and hence, then everyone will be caught up, not achieving the kind of mass adoption that we want to. And the last part is that one of the greatest challenge I think DePIN is going to face, and it's just in time to come, it's also the regulation and the compliance as well. While everything is still so unclear, it's still very vague, and how DePIN players will able to solve that huge question marks on that regulation and the compliance, and asking ourselves, here I am also asking, do the DePIN players also have an answer for, to solve that compliance and the regulatory, if they really will start intervening. And you know how regulation works, right? And regulatory bodies will only start intervening if the mass adoption happens, because then that's where the huge new influx of money flowing into this vertical. However, nonetheless, on the question that I'm also very excited with some of the what I want to see is some of the innovation that I believe DePIN will be disrupting. It's number one, I think healthcare. I always have this belief in these theories that where healthcare, DePIN will play such an instrumental role. Now, what I understand, before I tell a real story, what I understand is in the States, the medical history can only be kept for 7 years. And after that, subsequently, it will be reset, which means the healthcare and the medical center, the medical practitioner do not have the history of the medical history of the individual. Now, my mom, back to my mom again, there's always a lot of story about my mom. 7 years ago, this was pre-COVID, she was almost diagnosed with cancer. And the current place that I'm in, where I'm based right now in Kuala Lumpur, we went over to 3 different private hospitals. And can you believe that 3 different private hospitals is telling you a different diagnosis result? And guess what? The biggest joke is the 4th private hospital that we went to, they lost the medical record of my mom, and they can't even complete the diagnosis. Now, and this is where I personally think, and there's no other better times than now with post-COVID and all. Imagine every individual, every one of us, were able to own our own healthcare data. And that data belongs to you. Probably maybe one thing I'm looking forward to see is it's our integrate with a wearable tech and with our healthcare, which I know there's some players are building that. Probably maybe you guys might know that. But yes, I think that would definitely be a huge paradigm shift, to the healthcare. And DePIN plays that important role that every individual will be incentivized by us giving the data to the healthcare, to the health center. But of course, I also foresee there will be one huge challenge that where the Ministry of Health will be intervening, the government will be intervening, and that's where I'm talking about the whole big picture where compliance and regulatory board is going to be coming in. The other thing that I'm very excited to see where DePIN plays also a pivotal role that EV cars are growing and skyrocketing. Now imagine every one of us gets to own an EV charging station, or probably maybe not individually, maybe 4 of us can own an EV charging station, and we allow other EV cars to charge, and we make money from there. Over here, the e-hailing ride is so expensive. We came here just now with the heavy downpour just now. It took me about like $20 to come here from Gangnam. I personally think that's really costly, guys. Now imagine what DePIN is able to do. Literally disrupt the centralized entity. Imagine we have a decentralized infrastructure of an e-hailing ride. and canceling and striking off the intermediary, the centralized intermediary, and that's something definitely looking forward to see. And I think I was Bali 1 week ago for the CoinFest Bali. Speaking there, it was also a lot of DePIN that where allow individuals to be owning property and undivided land fraction. And 2 years ago, when I was in Bali, it was right at the early stage. And now a lot of the undivided land fraction players in Bali, it's mushrooming. And I think that will also have a spill over to a more urban city, allowing us to be either owning physical infrastructure, and in a very fractional ownership. And I think this is where DePIN will definitely we're able to reach its mass adoption, and once people fully understand about the context and the entire narrative of DePIN.
Thank you. So I heard the answer from the gentlemen. So for me personally, like, can DePIN bring blockchain into mass adoption? It definitely can, but we need some kind of like innovation within DePIN. That, as you know, like DePIN is basically a marketplace, right? One is a contribution, one contributor, and one is demand. If we can have the idea that both sides are involved with individual, not just one side individual and the other side enterprise, then we can say like DePIN can make blockchain into mass adoption in much faster scale and much faster speed, right? So for me, it's ACAS can bring DePIN to mass adoption. According to my opinions, then I think not really, but ACAS is the legacy project within DePIN. It has been here for 5 years, and they have really a long vision. 5 years ago, they already see the importance of decentralized GPU, right? So I think like nowadays, within the blockchain industry, how much we believe on DePIN, we need to thank to project like ACAS. And I can give one example of an innovation within the DePIN, one project, which is actually our flagship product. We build that product on top of our DPN subnet. And one side is an individual who have unused bandwidth resources. They can contribute into the network. And we are the first one within the DPN sector of the DePIN that been able to launch in the mobility node. So I have my phone, I download the app, I contribute the 3G Wi-Fi into the network. And the other startup within DPN, they still launch online Google Chrome extension. And nowadays, everyone have phone, not carry phone with them, right? And when I go sleep, I can just turn on my phone and I make money on that. And the other side is like individual who need to use VPN to access into some of the website with the bandwidth with their IP, or they need more privacy or security. So that is one of the example I can say that I believe that can bring DePIN into mass adoption. So with that product, we already gain like more than 160,000 nodes worldwide, cover more than 170 countries. So last time I talked to Mirana Venture, they say, wow, how you can cover the whole global like that? Because for them, like project startup, usually they roll region by region. For example, like when they conquer Asia, then they go to other part of the world. But for us, we just launch, and after 2 months, we have users on over 170 countries. So that, in my opinion. So yeah, I think like we run out of time, guys. We have only 30 minutes for our panel, and we should like 2-3 questions. But I think like we already like talk and discuss a lot of important things about DePIN. And thank you so much for everyone to still be here and listening to us. And thank you so much for joining me today on the panel.
together, please.
Or we're taking out photos together. Can everybody be in the light, or is it possible? Yeah. That might be. So that whole face is supposed to have that light. Yeah. Okay. That's that way. You want to be sure? Yes. Yeah. Rosemont tones. Okay. I'm gonna be taking like 5 to 6 different photos. So that is true. Then you have to turn this off. Maybe it might be better if you can just turn that off. Can anybody turn this off? Okay, better. Hold on for a second. Just a little bit. Okay, we'll be taking the photos. Ready? I'm going to be taking quite a few photos. 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. One more. Last one. There you go. Perfect. Thank you guys. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. I think we can continue with the third panel. We have one of our guests in the elevator, so just give 2 minutes.
We don't have this
No, we do. One is in the elevator and one is coming. We have third panel with 2 people, but we will do it. Yeah.
So, okay, we have 2 people, right? And what is the panel about?
So one slide.
Okay, so only Anjali is there.
No, this lady is not coming. She
Okay,
cannot
these
make
two.
it. So these 2 are here and Raf is here. So now, if I can get now the, I don't think it will go. Hi, welcome. Adrian, it's okay. Don't worry. It's okay. Don't worry.
What, 1 hour to reach here?
Yeah, it's like crazy.
How did you get here?
I'm just
Taxi, right? It was crazy, right? 1 hour. It took me 45 minutes. Yeah, 40 minutes. It's crazy.
I will pull to. Okay, I think we are ready to go with panel number 3.
Is it right
Yeah,
now?
it will be over here too. I will just pull one chair more so
Give
it's
me
not like.
3 minutes or go to the washroom?
Okay, run, please run. It's a crazy traffic. Whenever, He will run to the restroom. Yeah. He came. He went to the restroom and we can start. Thank you.
Can I ask you for a photo?
Yes. Just 1 second, sorry. Yeah. Okay, now. Otherwise, okay, thank you. Okay, we are ready for our third panel for today. If I can ask everyone to take a seat. Yeah. So our final panel of the day will be addressed for the AI-powered automation in decentralized networks. We have on the stage our moderator, Ravik, together with Zeus Chain, the co-founder of Multiple Networks, and Roger Inc., co-founder of Diffusion AI. So I'll just pass the microphone towards and wish you luck. Here you are.
Hey, thank you very much. And thanks for everyone for making it despite the rain. I think it was a challenge for everyone to make it. We also lost two people on the way, but they have a valid excuse. Exactly, due to the rain, so they have a valid excuse. Unfortunately, it also took me a while to get here, like almost an hour. Just made it. I hope all is good. So yeah, I think before we start, I'll just give the opportunity to Zeus and Roger to introduce themselves and tell us more about what you guys are building.
Awesome. Hey, thanks so much. Thanks, great to be here. Thanks, Mizzle, for hosting this event. My name is Roger Ying. I'm the co-founder of Diffusion AI. What we're doing is really basic. We are aggregating the most valuable data for tech and AI companies. What is that valuable data? It's high-quality language data. So essentially, the world is running out of data. Little well-known fact. It is very well known in the AI community, but not so well known elsewhere. GPT-4 was trained on 100x more data than GPT-3, and there's not enough data to train GPT-5. So we are going directly after this data, which we think is going to be basically jet fuel for an LLM, and it's going to be very valuable in the years to come. So that's us in a nutshell.
It is amazing, Roger. So Zeus from Multiple Network. I'm Asian Canadian, born in Singapore. If you have any questions on digital geographies, we'd be happy to talk about them. But today, here to talk about DeepIn and AI at Multiple Network. What we do specifically is to enable faster, more secure data access. We are the transmission channel, especially for AI companies. Then there's a natural question, right? How do we actually do it? So we do it by building a global network layer of nodes. Any device, whether it's a mobile, laptop, desktop, can be one of our nodes by sharing their broadband connection. And through SD-WAN, software-defined wide area network, we determine the most efficient and intelligent data navigation pathway at that moment. And in terms of reference speeds, we're 10 to 15 times faster if you compare sending a file through Dropbox, we transfer it compared to sending it through us. I can go a little bit deeper into the other two technologies that we use as well. But thank you for now.
Yeah, given the change in the panel, I mean, we'll change the format as well. It's more going to be a sort of discussions between three friends rather than a proper panel with questions, and so on. And I guess to kick it off, I mean, I will ask questions to each one of you, but obviously feel free to jump in. It's not directed to only one of you guys. But to kick it off, I guess for you, just how will DeepIn empower AI infrastructure?
Yeah, really good question, right? So DeepIn, Decentralized Physical Infrastructure Network. So there are three large areas that we look at primarily. There is the storage, there is the GPU, which you might have heard a lot of projects doing, and there is what we do, the transfer speed. So if you think about the GPU, right, or even as a regular internet user, the faster your compute speed, the faster your workflows, right, and the faster training goes. So it's not just your processing speed. We're talking about transmission, basically the speed of your data transfer and your internet speed, essentially, that all of us definitely feel the pain points in. And of course, storage. Storage would be right after you have actually trained the data. So these three verticals is something that DeepIn can definitely contribute into, in my opinion. So with this, you can actually have greater flexibility, scalability in terms of resources. So if you need more GPU, if you need it to be faster, you don't have to buy it right away.
Sorry, my allergies.
Oh, no reasons.
Yeah. All good. All good. No, but also to add to why DeepIn is also important from a actually like more political and social level actually. So what Diffusion we're doing is, sorry, we're aggregating valuable knowledge data, which essentially, and we're storing this on DeepIn infrastructure essentially, and so not only does it make it cheaper and more accessible for us, it also makes it censorship resistant and actually federatable and wider, accessible for the wider community. So it's not just about tech companies controlling your data and essentially selling on your data to other big AI and tech companies. So for example, Reddit is selling their data for $60 million a year to Google. News Corp is selling their data to OpenAI for $250 million. So there's really begs a new question on like data sovereignty, and essentially, in terms of data sovereignty and privacy, what I was talking to someone yesterday, and it's kind of like, it's already too late, right? As soon as you signed on with Google or something or something else, your data is being sold, it's being shared, etc. So actually, DeepIn from a social and political aspect gives you more control over your data as well as the right for yourself to monetize your data. And so at Diffusion, we actually have a very interesting incentive mechanism where we directly reward people for contributing research, textbooks, data that is behind, that is in the deep web, and not on the open web. So that is the most, in our view, the most valuable data right now, which is what AI companies can't get. Essentially, the internet's been scraped already. 90% of LLM training is used with synthetic data. So that's when you use like GPT-4 or Cloud, etc., and it hallucinates. You can ask it to rewrite your marketing essay or something like that, but you can't ask it deep questions about any specific subject matters, right? And so how do we surface that into AI, but make it free and available for mankind, where no one political organization or sovereign entity can control it, essentially.
All right, but then essentially you're saying that, and something you mentioned in the beginning is that there is scarcity of data, right? But there is scarcity of data, period, or there is right now a scarcity of data, but there is a way to get more data elsewhere?
Yeah, that's great. That's a great, yeah, so essentially what I'm saying is the data that's available has already been used. You can, actually, if you just Google, is the world running out of data, or you go to epoch.ai, it's the Stanford AI Research Center is highly publishing that by 2026, there's going to be no more data available for LLMs to train. So this kind of prophecy about an AGI coming is actually going to hit a brick wall unless big tech and etc. can get into private databases. And so what we're about is going after that. We're going after that data, directly rewarding users for that. And the byproduct of this is actually a decentralized Wikipedia that's available for everyone. So Wikipedia can, the current Wikipedia is a non-profit organization. It pays editors every year through grants to edit articles. Wikipedia is great at, saying who won Wimbledon for the past 30 years. Yeah. But if you want to ask Wikipedia, how do you hit a forehand? How do you hit a backhand? You can't, it doesn't answer it. And so, yeah, definitely.
Do you want something?
Yeah, I like that. So I think very intuitively, right, when we look at the web, we get simple answers, the first layer. But comparatively, what we kind of study, what the knowledge body that we have in universities, right, the research books, the tomes of knowledge, that really needs to be surfaced, as you said, and there's a lot of value in that. So I second the point. And on the point of security, right? So for multiple network, it's a decentralized way of sending it. So that way you skip a point of storage. Storage is where really, the big companies are training on your data. And even if you were to choose storage on another provider, a decentralized one, at least it's split up, it's encrypted. That way you ensure that your data is not trained. Yeah, so great.
Yeah, and companies like yours actually play a big part in this and making data uncensorable, privacy, and making it available globally, basically.
Great. I tried to dive into your project, but I have to admit I don't understand all of it. But essentially, I have a quick question for you, Roger. So, Diffusion AI aims to establish community-driven sources of truth enhanced by economic incentives. So, can you discuss how AI automation supports these like decentralized truth and like the possible impact it has?
Yeah, so full disclosure, our company can only exist in today's modern world. 5 years ago, 3 years ago, could not even exist, right? We are an application that's made scalable via AI and made possible with Web3 incentives.
Yeah.
What does that mean? So we are basically saying, we're going to directly reward users for contributing data. This could be textbooks, research articles, blogs, whatever it may be, your writings, romance novels, etc., on specific topics, right? And our AI basically, we have various different models which we've trained ourselves and to basically score this data, make sure it's unique, deduplicate it, validate it. We have a validation and corroboration engine, and then as well as augmented with synthetic data. So we essentially take raw diesel and turn it into jet fuel, which basically makes it easily recallable via RAG through different SLMs, fine tunes, or LMs, essentially. The byproduct of this is we create a unique global knowledge graph driven by the community and governed by the community. And so that's where this decentralized Wikipedia analogy comes in, or decentralized Reddit. So I always say to folks, Wikipedia hasn't innovated in 20 years. I've met Jimmy Wales and things. They were really like a non-profit, free-fall, etc. And there's only so much you can do with a non-profit structure. So when you turn this into a Web3 protocol, like the Web3 incentives in the Web3 protocol are massively powerful. And that's what we're leveraging.
Yeah, I think that's one of the key points about Deepin projects, right? And projects like ours is really an incentive mechanism. How often do we see Wikipedia's donate page and click on the red button, right, to close it and get to our data? So we need incentives to be aligned. And for many Deepin projects, we are incentivizing sharing of resources, right? In our cases, you're sharing broadband bandwidth so that everyone's internet transfer can go faster. And yeah, it's just beautiful that there's a tokenomics involved, and this is real assets that we're talking about, real knowledge, real hardware, and real sharing.
Thanks. Yeah, and I think in a lot of the panels that I guess everyone has been listening to throughout the week, and maybe last week in Tokyo, and I'm sure the week after next in Singapore, we often mentioned the benefits of AI, Deepin, etc. But if you had to maybe point out, let's say, the biggest challenge you're facing, and maybe the biggest threat, this could actually represent, what would that be?
So, I think there's in the AI community, folks are always thinking that all knowledge graphs will collapse into one, and then that will become the AGI, essentially, right? The day that happens, we're all fucked, right? We're never going to think for ourselves. Our children will basically start using ChatGPT, and human will be a slave to humanity. So in our project, it's about creating a framework for reference of truth, and basically saying, hey, this is extremely important. You can get you can write your essay with ChatGPT, but are you going to learn anything, right? If you're a 10 or 12-year-old, right? And so this is kind of we're heading for a Matrix type of Skynet type of event. And if we do not have a knowledge graph that's run by the community on decentralized architecture, that no one, Google, the US government, China, or whatever, can shoot down, people will never actually think for themselves again. We are literally going to be the Duracell battery in the in the fucking Matrix, bro. Yeah. So.
Yeah, to second that, right? Again, the levels of knowledge, but one day, with the depths of data sources feeding into the models, even the assays will be beyond single layer. It will be beautiful. So that really comes to do we really think about it? But maybe I could address slightly the automation part that is part of our panel today, right? And at the current stage, what can we do as humans without, just trusting it? So just a few examples of AI automation, right? Let's say you go onto a hotel website and you chat with a bot, and the bot is actually answering your questions. Not all of us likes that. In fact, many of us prefer talking to a real human. But if you were to use that as a hotel operator, it would be great if you can have an active kind of governance, monitoring, maybe have a data graph, and actually see whether the output is what you are designing it to be, right? And constantly optimizing it from there. Yeah, and of course, if you have better analytics, better dashboard, and we touched on a little today about the overall infrastructure to make sure that the speed, security, resilience is there. That's a prettier model in getting to where we want it to be. But for now, there's a lot of kind of thought for human input inside to make the data faster and better.
So if you have to, I guess, that's a two-step question, right? Like if you project yourself, let's say in 10 or 20 years in the future, how do you envision, I would say, actually the convergence, right, of AI and blockchain, so like the whole like DePIN, like decentralized networks and so on, like how do you envision your projects to be at, and like, how do you see the future essentially being built?
Yeah, I see us essentially having the world's knowledge on a decentralized knowledge graph that's free and accessible for all. Everyone's going to be able to create their own models, search the database. There's no going to be walled gardens of, I say, the inner circles versus outer circles. Like finance world's always inner circle versus outer circle. The Washington elites versus the rest. The crypto bros versus the rest, right? So we want a level playing field. And essentially knowledge, we're turning knowledge into an asset class, and it's a form of universal basic income. So folks who run our nodes, etc., will actually earn a passive income that could actually change their lives.
Hey, thanks for that. So for multiple network, right, we're looking forward to getting to 20 million nodes in 5 years. The vision is to have nodes globally. When we're talking about data transfer, you don't want any gaps in your internet connectivity, in your data transmission. You don't want geographies where you cannot send data to. The more nodes that we have, the faster it is. So we're very excited to get there, and we're incentivizing it. So to be more specific, so 50% of our tokens are dedicated towards network emissions, which means that their tokens is rewarded to you if you're actually contributing your data. So that's one. And on top of just this, right, we're looking forward to more applications to be built on the infrastructure that we will have. So just a few things, right? You could actually build a financial trading platform, and you could execute the trades much nearer to where the exchanges that you are trading at are. So right now people use like AWS, put a server nearer to the city or the specific district where the exchanges trades are happening, but you can definitely use our nodes. So unlimited possibilities in terms of apps that can be on our data network infrastructure. But more importantly, it'd be great as a community, right, to hear feedback, be excited by things that each other builds, and to really grow this in a real way, not an empty project, but changing the world.
Awesome. Sounds like there's a lot of synergies. I also forgot to add, just an example of what we've done is maybe in the first 3-4 weeks of launching our Genesis phase, we've built the largest research database in Web3 and crypto. We had over 20,000 submissions. Our AI filtered out 70% of it, and it's all deduplicated, unique knowledge graph. So that's only for the Web3 verticals. We're going after the rest.
And thanks for that. But actually, you both brought the nodes, right? And I think this is a point where actually I feel like AI is working against decentralization, because let's say each one of us, right, is running a node. And the more nodes, the better for decentralization. And you said, for speed, etc. Exactly. Now, let's say I have an AI-driven node. So by default, because it's AI-driven, it becomes more efficient than yours, which means it's costs less, and it's more efficient. So then it means that if I have an AI-driven node and you run it, let's say manually, for lack of a better word, I could potentially then be running 3, 4, 5 nodes, you know, and it would cost less to the network, and essentially I could take over, you know, more nodes. So that that goes against decentralization, right? So how do you solve that, I guess, you know, that issue between AI being too efficient and essentially in a way killing decentralization?
So we actually have SD-WAN technology, again, the software-defined wide area network that we mentioned. It is a dashboard. It is an overarching analytic system constantly looking at how data goes through, how data flows. So if there's anyone that's trying to undermine the system, it's so obvious. It will actually appear as a red spot on our dashboard. But overall, right, depending on how you use it, you could be using AI to optimize the amount of bandwidth, meaning having dynamic bandwidth, right? You could have you calculate, oh, for example, yourself, right, Rafik? Like at night, you're basically maybe not downloading anything and not using the internet at all. Let's plan it such that you're giving out 100% of your bandwidth instead of 30%. So that actually works. That actually works in our favor. The more intelligently you know how to contribute, overall the entire network will be better. So maybe to simply answer your question, using AI to power the nodes for more AI.
Yeah, on that, you know, for our nodes, you have to basically stake and stake tokens, etc. So there's an economic incentive for the network to be sustainable. So honestly, for us, it's kind of like we're not worried because if an AI wants to take over and take over the network, etc., and put in garbage into the network, it kills itself, right? It doesn't make it sustainable for the network, and then the network can basically fork. And not to mention, we'll decentralize ownership of the nodes in the beginning. But to your point, they can still overtake the network, buy more tokens, stake more tokens, run it, crash network, and then the AI would have lost all its money. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. And so how would you, because we've seen it in multiple networks actually, like AI is being so efficient, right, that we don't, as humans, we don't understand anymore how it's actually thinking and how it processes, you know, information and so on. So how do we stay in control? How do we stay in control of that?
Yeah, that's a that's a great question.
It's not a tough question.
No.
It's a hard one.
Yeah, I mean,
it's iRobot kind of scenario, but you know.
Yeah, but this is also why diffusion exists, to make sure that the AI cannot kind of be in control and kind of sticking it away. But at the same time, this AI is also like it's garbage in, garbage out, right? And what we're trying to say today is, you know, like the AI, you know, there's also I was at a talk at Stanford basically, and one of our ex-professors was saying like the AI right now has the brain of a goldfish, right? Okay. And so, you know, AGI has to kind of accelerate to a point where it could like have this kind of Skynet type of thing. But as folks would say, it's like you could overestimate it in the near term, but you would underestimate it in the long term. Yeah. And so, yeah.
Yeah, great. Just a parallel kind of some of the sharing, right? So overall at Oxford AI, right, usually is more on the application level, less of a doomsday scenario, but definitely outside of the AI society, we debate, right? I'm also at Oxford Union as one of the university debaters. That's one of the topics that we would definitely have. Do you want it to go that way? I personally believe that it's not something that suddenly happens, you know. Suddenly it just takes over. It's progressive. As fast as it develops, you can definitely see when it's getting there and choose to stop it. And then circling back to our product, right? Multiple network. We're the transmission channel, so you could choose to just cut the transmission. It's flexible deployment. Yeah, so use it when you need it, you know, fail safe. It's not taking over.
Yeah. Okay, great. Do you want to add anything? If not, I guess you can just, you know, like where can we guys find you, and you know, like what next are we looking for with the Diffusion AI and multiple network?
Yeah, that's yeah. Please go to genesis.diffusion.ai. You can log in with your wallet. You can start contributing knowledge. You can start earning points. Those points are going to allow you to qualify for our nodes. Once you get to 10,000 points, you can actually search the knowledge graph. So I personally think it's really amazing where you can get information. People have uploaded conference talks, textbooks, everything related to RWA, AI, deep and infrastructure, etc., etc. The community can nominate topics next. We're probably going to do US presidential elections, so some hot topics there. But yeah, there's a lot of implications, social implications what I do. You know, I suggest guys play around with it, see what happens, and we'd love everyone's feedback, essentially.
Yeah, thank you. So one of the things that you're looking forward to could be diffusion working with Multiple. We're very excited by that. And go on to multiple.cc. All socials are right at the bottom. Just scroll down there. You can click on Get Started. Right now we're at testnet stage 1. We are only opening to 5,000 whitelisted participants. If you're here at this panel, take a selfie. I have to be inside and your faces be inside. Send us a message on our Telegram to one of our mods, or have an email, or actually my LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/ZeusChan. I'll be happy to offer you a spot on one of our whitelists. So the incentives are, for this stage, if you run your node for 500 hours over the next 1 month, you get 500 USDT worth of airdrops from us. So some attractive incentives right there.
I'm definitely going to have to check that out, man. Got to pay for the career trip, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Did you take a selfie?
Yeah, exactly. I have to be
Exactly. Let's do it. Quickly, let's do it. There you go. All right.
3, 2, 1.
I hope it counts double.
Yeah.
All right, exactly. All right. Thank you, Zeus. Thank you, Roger. It's been a pleasure. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, audience. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Photo session. Not
Yeah,
session.
that- okay, yeah.
Give me the mic.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, you can contact me and we'll share it with you. Yeah, just contact me on Telegram. Yeah, we're gonna keep in touch. Don't worry.
Of your Telegram. So thank you for everything.
Thank you too.
Make sure you
and so
don't
sorry.
include any audience shots.
Yeah, okay. But I was there all the time.
Generate, we should go generate the audience. That's why I did it.